All right, welcome back to OllieGolf.com. I'm your host, David Egono. Today we are with Santa Clara's men's golf coach, Rob Miller. Rob, how are you doing today?
Pretty good.
Now you're out in the San Jose, the Bay Area. How did you get into golf? How in the world did you get into golf?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I played golf when I was a kid, just for fun. I really was not one of these kids that grew up on the golf course and was absorbed in golf. That's for sure. I was just a public guy, and I probably was 12 to 15 handicap for most of my youth, and didn't play really high school golf and all that. But I met a guy when I started working here in the Northern California in the San Jose area, who was about 70 years old, and I was about 25, and we had a driving range right near where my office was down in San Jose, and he used to go to the driving range at lunch every day. His name was Les Hamilton, and he had a group of guys. There was probably 8 guys that they would, 4 or so would show up every day at lunch and meet and have lunch and hit balls. That was their routine. And he sort of adopted me into this group, and he really taught me how to play golf over the next 15 years. Quite honestly, it took about, pretty much hitting balls every day. I was just Monday through Friday, hitting balls at lunch and having lunch with him. I probably in the last 10 years did that just about every day. Mm-hmm. And of course, during that time of my life, I was having kids and married and all that stuff, so I wasn't really competing. But he really urged me to start competing when I was about 40, and so I started playing competitive golf, and he died when I was in 2002, I think it was, 1 or 2, and so I sort of dedicated, my life for a couple of years to really playing a lot of competitive golf and really getting into. I eventually qualified for the U.S. Mid-Am, and I just decided to really take it up a little more seriously after he died, and plus, time in my life was a little better. And so that was just kind of an unusual way to get into golf, but you meet somebody like that who inspires you and kind of teaches you the ins and outs, and that's the way it works for me.
Now, and that's an awesome story as far as almost being somewhat of a, maybe this is a loose coupling of words, but of an apprentice, and just seeing somebody that sees something in you, and you're just able to then have a more applied thirst for golf. Did you ever see yourself coaching at all?
It was that I can honestly say I had absolutely no idea. I was a businessman, essentially. I was corporate finance. I was a controller and a CFO here in the San Jose, and really just in the business world. And I knew nothing about college golf or coaching at all, period, when I started, sort of competing. And it was just sort of a strange coincidence of events that sort of led me to coaching, or very, very odd. What happened was I was playing in some of the Northern California amateur events, and one of the kids that I knew a little bit, because actually his mother was friends with my wife, and he was a Santa Clara family, and my kids were at that time going to Santa Clara, and so there was these connections to this guy, and his name was John Collier, and he was a fifth-year senior on the team in 2000. going to be his senior year is going to be 2005, 2006, and their coach had left in the 2004-05 season. His name was John Kennedy, and he moved from Santa Clara over to his alma mater, which is San Jose State, which is just a few miles away. But they had lost their coach, and that summer I happened to be paired with John in just a Northern California match play qualifier, I think it was, or something. And he was telling me the story, about them losing their coach, and he said, maybe, Rob, he was, basically in his last year and really kind of was apprehensive about who they were going to get and what was going to happen with the team, and he was telling me all this stuff, and he says, we'd love to, get somebody like you to come in there, and really take over the team. And I just sort of, laughed at him, and I didn't even respond, but I told my wife about the conversation when I got home. I was, by this time I was about 50 years old. I think I was about to be 50. And I was kind of looking for something a little different to do. I've been doing the same thing, kind of the CFO job for over 20 years, or about 20 years, and so we had a conversation about it. She said, well, maybe you should try to, do something like that. This sounds like it'd be interesting. And, I kind of looked at her and I said, are you sure that's a lot of work and, totally, different for me. And she said, no, I think it'd be good. So she encouraged me to apply for the job. So I called back this player on the team, Joe, and I say, hey, were you serious about, thinking that I might, be good at doing that? And he goes, yeah, I think you'd be good at it. And let me, if you're interested, let me set up an interview with the athletic department. So wow. He basically told me, to contact his assistant AD, who's John Clough, and I went over and chatted with John, and he kind of told me that, well, we're just getting started looking, and here's kind of what the job's all about, and we just had a 5 or 10 minute conversation, and he said, well, yeah, we're going to start interviewing shortly. Send me a resume. And I just about fell out of the chair laughing at him. Well, I don't know if I'm going to have. First of all, I haven't done a resume in over 20 years, and second of all, I don't know what kind of resume I could put together for golf coach, but let me give it a try. And so one thing kind of led to another. I think that what attracted, the athletic department there to me to some degree was, number one, I was in the business community, and that just kind of helps in terms of raising money. Number two, I'd been living here all my life. I certainly had a Santa Clara connection as my kids were going to school there. And, I knew tons of people in the golf business around here just from playing so much and just kind of getting to know everybody. So the combination, what I really lacked, quite honestly, was really any sort of instruction. I was never an instructor. I just played golf at a high level. So I was able to convince one of the top instructors in the area, who was a good friend of mine, to kind of come on board and help me with the instruction part. His name was Bill Johnson, and he had pretty good resume and credentials, and so he was able to sort of fill in that part of the the job, really having credibility, with the players. That they have their all swing coaches, and they're all playing at a pretty high level these days. So you need to have somebody that has some credibility to work with them. So he came on board with me, and we just kind of put the program together.
Wow. Now, coming from the business world, one of the things that I always like to make sure that I ask, what are some of the similarities in business and running your golf team? I mean, not necessarily that you run your golf team as a business. I mean, I'm not trying to necessarily make that correlation, but what are some of the aspects that give you results in business that give you the same top performing results in golf?
David, right?
Yes, sir.
everybody's a little bit different, in terms of how they approach, business world, whatever their personal life, and your personal, characteristics, kind of determine how you do things and how you manage, people and so forth. And I think my style, in particular, is the same in the business world and the coaching world. It's I tend to be sort of a, not an authoritarian type, more of a, let's look at all the information together. Let's make some decisions together. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. Those kind of things that you try to do, whether you're going to be consistent probably, throughout your life and how you tackle things. So there's not one way to do things. It's just, everybody has a style, and that's my style. I'm more of a collaborator. And, those kind of things, served me well in the business community and just working with people and being, sort of people oriented. And, I just sort of carried those same things over. What you do have to do is, you have to be fair and honest, but you have to be decisive to be successful in anything. The business world is about taking, whatever information you can gather and trying to make the best decisions possible based on the information that you gather. And, a lot of that's about surrounding yourself with, people that are going to give you, honest and good information, or you make bad decisions sometimes from bad information. So, you do your best you can to try to surround yourself with good people and get good information and make good decisions. You say the same thing on golf, coaching or whatever you're doing in life. That's you take that approach and hope it works for you.
Awesome. Now, let's talk about the job that you've done at Santa Clara. You stepped into a situation where you just said you didn't have the instructing part down, so you hired on a guy. How did you start to revamp the Santa Clara program?
Well, the program was, in a little bit of had not really had a ton of success in the past. That's for sure. It was certainly didn't have a history, of golf success. So, the first thing I had to do, quite honestly, David, was really kind of learn, what was going on at Santa Clara. Learn about, golf and collegiate golf. There was a lot of just learning in the first year. I didn't have the background to bring to the program just to say, okay, this is what I do, and this is how I'm going to make this successful. So the first year that I was there, I pretty much just focused on, okay, let's see, what we can do with the team that we have, because I didn't take the job didn't start till the summer of 2005. So obviously recruiting and trying to get people is way too late for any of that. You just have to focus on the team you have. And they had a pretty talented group, but they really underachieved, and a lot of that was just from just a lot of turmoil, kind of surrounding the program, in terms of guys being comfortable with their roles and just play golf and focus on golf. There was just a lot of extraneous diversions that's going on, and so we just basically initially just said, okay, guys, let's just focus on golf and playing the best golf we can and trying to be fair and get the best guys out there that playing each week and just focus on golf. And that was a very senior group. It was dominated by the one John Collier, who was a fifth-year senior, another senior named Mike Nicoletti, and two juniors, Jong Yoon and Eric Lillibridge. So those four guys, had been around. They'd been there. They didn't play particularly well the year before, but they had individually been somewhat successful, just hadn't been very successful as a team. There was a sophomore on the team that was a very good player from Illinois. His name was Tim Lynch, and he and the previous coach didn't get along very well, and he had not really been allowed to play as a freshman much. And he came in and really solidified sort of this spot in that team, and which was turned out to be a very big role. And those five guys, basically really, really came together as a group and played just, outstanding golf that year. And a lot of it was just, really kind of, a new coach. They had a lot of, they were sort of empowered. They were on a mission to just, sort of end the two seniors in particular, to end on a positive note, and were really motivated, good leaders, and really kept the team focused and helped me, kind of learn about, college golf and what it takes, sort of be successful, at that level. And it was sort of a collaborative effort between them and me to sort of get the best out of that team and kind of try to get the program going in the right direction. So a little bit of an unusual situation, but it worked out well for me to transition into coaching and have some veterans on the team and some real leaders between Mike Nicoletti and John Collier. We actually made it to regionals that year. That was the first year the program ever had made it to regionals. And, it was, essentially those five guys were on the team the year before. There was no change in personnel. It's just that they were ranked 150th in the country the year before, and by the time at one point in that season, I think we were ranked in the top 30. I think we ended up ranked about 50th or so in the country, and it was just a real positive, year for the team.
Wow, and now that brings me to confidence. You touched a little bit on it, just as far as guys in turmoil and not understanding roles. How do you view confidence, and how do you build it within your guys?
Well, everybody in the world needs to feel like, they're understood, and, they need a pat on the back now and again. Sometimes they need a kick in the rear. I mean, there's not a universal answer to that. I mean, everybody, needs different things at different times, and you have to be good at, sort of getting to know, the personalities and trying to figure out, what works for each player. And confidence, David, in golf, in most sports at the highest level, everybody talks about confidence being, a huge factor in golf. Where you're really out there by yourself and you're competing against yourself, it just kind of gets, it becomes, even more important, just because there's really nobody to blame. There's nobody to look at. You really have to search, within. So, it's important everywhere, but it's particularly important in, individual sports where you have to do some soul searching. So, the problem is, you look at stats for the PGA guys or most of the tour guys, and certainly there's some guys that are confident all the time, but most of those guys are making the majority of their money during a short period of the season. Maybe just a month or so where they're just incredibly hot and confident. and there's just ups and downs in a calendar year for those guys. It's rare for somebody to be consistent throughout the year. So at the highest levels, you go through ups and downs, and your confidence is going to go up and down. So it's just not a level thing to expect. And the guys that are the best are the ones that are able to manage their emotions, their mental strength is what gets them essentially to the top. And it's in this day and age where there's the mental side of everything is getting so much attention. All you have to do is look at the bookshelves at the bookstore to see how many books there are on mental toughness in golf, to know that it's it's a huge part of the game. It's just accepted now. It's not a mystery.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. What are some ways?
So I don't know if that really answers your question. I think I go back to the beginning part of it. What I really tell you is like each guy, is a little bit different, and they have strengths and weaknesses, and both on the golf course and mentally. And everybody knows that they're going to reach a point where they're uncomfortable, with whatever they're doing, whether it's trying to make a 3-footer to win the U.S. Open, or whether it's trying to, make a 3-footer to have your best round, your best tournament round, shoot 65 or 66 or something in a tournament. But no matter where you're at, you have to. The idea is to get out there, compete, reach and try to strive for new goals, and then sometimes fail and learn from those experiences rather than try to just be out there playing and just accept failure. So a lot of it's just dealing with failure and trying to improve from that, and then trying to learn, and then gain confidence the next time that you're in a situation like that. I've been there before. I know what to expect. I know what my mind is going to do. I know what I'm physically capable of, and I'm going to succeed the next time. So failure is a big part of golf. I mean, you're not going to hit very many shots perfect. So it's just dealing with failure and trying to deal with pressure. And Johnny Miller's the one that talks a lot about choking and pressure, and there's a reason for it. I mean, people don't used to not like to talk about that stuff. Now it's a little more, I think, accepted that everybody has a pucker point every day. Mm-hmm. So it's just a matter of whether you're going to reach that every day. I mean, sometimes you're going to be in a position where you push yourself, and sometimes you're just out there hitting balls and just trying to do things in a routine, and you're just going through your routines. Just everybody's living though for those times where they can be under the gun and be under pressure and succeed.
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question, but yeah, what you just said kind of sends that point over the fence for a home run. That kind of leads me to my next question, as far as are there like, and everybody is different, every player is different. Are there certain habits, whether that you try to instill in yourself or your players, that help to reinforce confidence and just being mentally sound? Are there any like routines or memories that you go back to, or is it more so just being like, when you're trying to encourage a player, just being encouraging, being positive? Hey, you can do this. You're here. How do you get here? Because you're capable, right? Can you give me some feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, this is not rocket science either, and it's somewhat cliche, but there's there is, in golf there's both the field side and the technical side, and you really cannot ignore one or the other. And what you strive for in golf is to do your reps and put in the time and be technical, understand your swing, be a technician, when you need to be, and when it's appropriate to be, when you're out there working on your game, when you have maybe you got a month or two, in the winter where you can maybe try to do some things different or try some different, swing techniques, or maybe improve on part of your game that really is weak, that, your technique's maybe not as good and you need to try some different things. Or there's times when you need to do that and you really need to focus on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then there's, other times where, basically you need to be able to shut that down and be able to, focus on just target and maybe rhythm, maybe timing, whatever that's, a simpler, less technical, part of the game, and just, be able to go in the flow and get in the zone, and, all of those types of, things that golfers talk about. So a lot of that, and then when you hit a shot that's not perfect, you have to be able to, analyze that quickly, and move on without getting over analytical and trying to, change your technique and your swing every time. And you have to be able to say, okay, well, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but, I know why I did it or whatever. I'm just, not worried about it. So, in golf, it's being able to manage those, parts of you that want to be technical and that want to be, sort of turning off all of those things and just be simple, and trying to apply those things, at the right times. And when you're most successful, obviously, and you hear it all the time, the guys say, hey, I just went through that round, without, thinking too much. I just performed and just wasn't worried about score, wasn't worried about technique, wasn't just, kind of, look for my target, visualize the shot, and hit the shot, and move on to the next one, and, whatever happened, happened. It's a lot easier said than done, but, that's what, you want to encourage guys to do, is basically manage their minds, essentially, to give them the chance to be successful out there.
Yeah. Now, this is, I went into this interview wanting to talk a lot about just sort of boosting a golf program and trying to get guys to buy in. And we talked a little bit about that, but at the same time, we started talking about the 20. Everybody talks about it, but there's so many different aspects of talk about mental toughness and just being mentally resilient. And we started to talk about failure and just being able to manage that. I had to control myself. I was like, I have so many questions to ask, but
with golf, with golf, if you're striving to be, perfect, you're just not going to succeed. It just, it doesn't happen. Do you play golf?
I haven't in a while, but
okay.
I know for a fact that it's just like any other sport in the sense that, you have to work on the mechanics, you have to work on the game. But the only way that you can ever start doing what you want to do, like having command of those skills and those abilities and those fundamentals and mechanics, is if you trust yourself and you prepare and you challenge yourself. So how do you challenge yourself? For most golfers, playing, and for college golfers, playing in tournaments and traveling and losing and failing and all these things.
One of the things that you'll notice about golfers, if you talk to them very much, and it's kind of a funny and universal thing, we kind of all laugh at each other about it, but you can go out there and play a round of golf, and you can have the best round of your life. And when you're done, let's say, you're a scratch golfer and, you shoot, 64. You can ask that guy, you can come up to him at the end of the round and say, geez, how'd you do today? So if you were, in the group behind him, you didn't have any idea. And the guy said, I had a good day and I shot 64 and it's the best score I ever had. But you know what? I left 2 shots out there. I should have been at 62. They will always talk, no matter how good you played, you talk about the shots you left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that stick in your memory, no matter how well you played, even if you had a career round. And even if you talk to a guy who's an 18 handicap that's trying to break 80, for the first time he goes out there and shoots 79, he's probably going to say, you know what, I should have shot 75. So, in golf, it's normal. It's normal behavior where you really, know that you're not going to succeed on every shot. And, how do you manage to play well and have that best round, basically knowing you just missed a 2-foot putt or something that, it's not going to be a perfect round. Well, so what? It's not going to be a perfect round. You can still, maybe have the best round you've ever had. Or even if you're not having the best round. Okay, well, how can I make a 75 into a 74? Because, the team, really needs me to be focused on trying to have the best round I can, even if it's not a great round. So in college golf, it's, a lot of times about just trying to grind out the best score you had, even though you're not maybe having your best day. But still, you have to be focused. You have to play, for the other guys. You play for the team, and that takes a lot of mental toughness to grind out a score, and that's a lot of what these guys are learning in college golf, and why the team aspect of it, really kind of helps them, later on in life, because they can't give up on a round. You just can't do it. You don't know what everybody else on the team's doing, and you have to figure out how to basically scrape a couple of shots off your score, or not make it get too high, even though you want to throw in the towel. So it's good for them.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Well, this has been a great interview. My last question as we're wrapping up. All that being said, all your life experiences, whether out in the real world per se, in the business world, or now the past decade or so coaching, what is one lesson that that inspired you to be able to manage failure? Is there like a certain player or a time when it just wasn't working and you focused on one aspect of, the destination and you got there?
Let's see. One. I had one player who was, to explain this guy a little bit more. His name was Scott Travers, or is Scott Travers, and I'm trying to remember, he graduated 2 or 3 years ago, and he played high school golf, but wasn't real good. Didn't have a great junior career. He was a talented player, had a little bit of an unusual move, and just kind of had struggled in high school to really play consistently. Was not well recruited. I think he was from Southern California. He went to Long Beach one day and talked to the coach, and the coach, looked at him and said, "Hey, you're just not good enough to play Division I golf, and you should be, looking at Division II or III schools if you really want to play golf." And I just did not encourage him. And this young man was, determined. He wanted to play Division I golf. So he contacted me, and actually this was, I think, the first year that I was actually recruiting. So it had been the next summer, 2006, that I was, talking to this young man. He was smart, so he had gotten accepted into Santa Clara, and he was saying, "Look, I just want a chance, to make the team." And so I said, "Well, okay, fine. I'm bringing in 4 players, for next year. I'll make you one of them, but I really don't want to keep 4 players, so you guys are going to have to try out in the fall. And I'll keep at least 2 of you guys." And he says, "Okay, well, that's all I want is a chance." So he decided to come to Santa Clara with that being his opportunity. Knowing that he was not guaranteed a spot, but at least he was going to have, he knew who the other 3 guys were. He knew the 4 guys were, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna, I want to make the team, so I'm gonna work hard at it." So he went out and played all that summer, and he really had a good summer. And when he came in, his freshman year, that September, he was a shoo-in. I mean, he already, basically made the team because he just worked his butt off all summer, and he played well, and he was just kind of coming into his own. He was a late bloomer, all that stuff. And so, the first thing that happens is, you give a guy a chance, and you get a guy with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, maybe a guy that wants to, put in the time, work a little bit harder. And, so the short answer there is sometimes you just got to, basically give a guy an opportunity to succeed and give him a chance. And they, it has to be, within them. I mean, he obviously wanted it. This guy became, with some encouragement and just kind of slow, positive reinforcement and really, just kind of continuing to grow. When between his junior and senior year, he was a 5th-year senior, so it was actually after 4 years of college golf, going into his 5th year. He had taken 1 year off for a medical leave. He won the Southern California State Amateur. He won the California State Amateur. He was in the final 8 of the Northern California State Amateur. He was ranked in the top 100 amateurs in the world after 4. This is 4 years after not even being recruited.
Wow.
So, did I do that? Well, no. I mean, I obviously, basically encouraged him, and I gave him an opportunity, and, at times just, he became like, sort of a son to me. We were pretty close, and, we traveled a lot, lots of times. During that, our team wasn't great, but, he individually, we traveled to a lot of things. He would make regionals, and so we'd have to just be he and I, and getting through, the maturing process of, going from 18 years old to 22 years old and helping him, just kind of mature as a man and try to work through, all the things that go on in life during that time frame. It is just something you do as a coach. You just, you at the time of life where, these kids are just learning how to be adults. And, you have to help them with that part of their life, trying to be successful as human beings, and, trying to, be encouraging for them to try to just, be the best they can. Whether they're going to be great or whether they're going to be okay, and what you really want to do is say, look, the job my job is to help you be, the best that you can be or want to be. And some guys want it, more than others. That's all there is to it. Some guys work harder. Some guys are more determined. Some guys, like I said, they have a little chip on their shoulder maybe, or whatever. It's not just all about talent, and lots of times it's really just about, their personal makeup and desire.
Yeah, that's an awesome depiction of just how you don't always control basically everything outside of you, but you have to give it a shot, and it's inside of you. Some would say it's either in you or it's not, and I definitely sort of agree with that. Coach Miller.
Sometimes at the highest level, that's the way it is. Sometimes it's really hard to really identify those little things, or what's inside. It's just there or not.
I totally agree. Totally agree. Coach Miller, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day, busy schedule, and talking with me.
No problem. That's what we do as coaches. A lot of talking.
Well, I just hope that more people, are ease up on themselves and see that, they have things that they got to work through, but, you're not going to be perfect. Well, again, Coach Miller, I just want to thank you for doing the interview.
My pleasure, David.
All right. Thank you for everybody for being a part of it.